Hi, my name's Ed Vaughn. My wife Karen and I decided to move back to the Houston area. That's where my son and daughter-in-law and two grandsons live. And we had spent a lot of time putting our financial house in order for retirement. But the one thing we hadn't done is put our spiritual and religious house in order. I had a relationship with God, but it was hit and miss. I asked a lot of favors of God, and but I didn't listen to God, and I didn't try to learn more, and so I strayed away, And I wanted that relationship. I wanted that feeling that I had when I was saved when I was 12 years old and baptized. I wanted that feeling back. In the spring, April of 2007, our golf club was having its annual match play tournament. And so arriving at the club that morning, I was introduced to my opponent for the day, a fellow by the name of Patrick Kelly. During the match, I'd asked Patrick, I said, "Patrick, what kind of work do you do?" And he said, "Well, I'm a pastor of a church I started 10 years ago." And of course, my first thought was, oh man, what have I said? Have I said anything? Have I had any golf talk here that I could regret and all? And anyway, through the course of conversation, Patrick says, "Ed, where do you go to church?" I said, "Well, we've come down here to Texas, back to Texas to retire." And I said, "I grew up as a Baptist. I went to a Christian church and a Methodist church. We've looked at Presbyterian churches. And oh, by the way, when I'm in New York City, I like to go to St. Patrick's Cathedral." I stopped for a minute thinking that's all sounded rather silly. I look at Patrick and he's almost dizzy. And I'm thinking, please God, don't have him ask me any more questions. And he didn't. But he did invite me to church. About a month or so later, we did come to the church. And I was able to see everything that Patrick had talked about. And I remember thinking, this almost looks like a melting pot of the whole Houston culture. And, I felt comfortable. I got a call on the cell phone, and I thought Patrick was wanting to play golf. He says, there's some people, I'm putting a little group together to go to Cuba. And he said, I've always been interested in what the church might be able to do in a communist state like Cuba. And it's kind of an investigative trip. And I said, "Karen, man, what if I get over there and make a fool out of myself?" And she says, "I think you should go." And I said, "Karen, I'm counting on you to bail me out of this thing." And she says, "No, you call him back. You're going." I said, "Okay." All through the week, I had the privilege of eavesdropping in on various conversations with Patrick and other people. And I could get a sense of his philosophy for River Point and his personal philosophy. And I remember him saying, man, God loves you for who you are. Just all your frailties, all your warts, he still loves you. And he always will. And I always thought over the last 30 or 40 years that, man, to be a Christian, you had to almost be like Pope. I mean, you had to be perfect. And I couldn't do that. There's no way. Even if I even tried, I couldn't. And so I didn't try. But Patrick opened me up and he said, "Hey, you're going to grow through relationships of people at the church." And the first time I heard that, I thought, well, it makes sense, but I don't know. But the more I hear it, and the more relationships I have at the church, it's true. I think the moment for me when it finally hit home and I finally said, I give up, was in Cuba on Sunday. We visited a church. And the whole church service, was in Spanish. And I could see the happiness in those people's face. And I remember they were singing. And I'm up on the stage with the rest of us, and my back's up against the wall. And I look out, and I'm noticing everybody seems to be looking at me. And I can't believe, why are they looking at me? And for some reason, I turned around, and right over my head on the back wall, they were putting the words to the song they were singing. And I looked at some of the words, and I don't know Spanish, but I could see. And the song, it hit me then. To God be the glory. And I think that was it.